Hey guys, so here bringing you another video. Welcome back to episode 2 of the Champions Climb. So we started this series a couple days ago. We watched a bronze Jayce and you guys seem to really enjoy it. And if you're tuning into this episode, feel free to go back and watch episode 1. And in essence, this series is me watching certain ranks of the same champion within its each mini-series. So we're starting with Jayce, and then after we've completed Jayce, we'll move on to another champion. We watched a bronze Jayce. He had a good game, but there were definitely things to improve on, and you guys liked it. So now we're moving on to what is gold. So a couple things from the first episode were people wanted to know maybe a little bit more about the player that we're watching. So specifically, this guy is a Jayce main in Gold 4 on EU West. Has played about 700 games of solo queue, so again, not a smurf of any kind, but in those games, in solo queue, has got 284 games of Jayce with a 54% win rate, so a very good win rate. Good KDA as well, 8.5 kills, 5.8 deaths, and 6.9 assists. If anything, a little bit high deaths for Jayce, but also having higher kills than average. So, Jayce versus Kayle. I chose this game because Kayle is not exactly a pushover anymore. And Zofo for show, 42 months tier 3 sub. Thank you so much, dude. How am I doing? I'm doing really, really well, actually. Recording this on Christmas Eve. But as I was saying, Kayle is no longer a pushover champion. She used to be, oh, she's such a joke in the early game, and like she literally gets stomped by everything. Not really. I have seen Kayle's beat things in lane that are designed to do well in lane. So it's a bit weird. So both of them quite similar as champions. Both have a ranged part to them and arguably a melee part to them. Obviously, Kayle starts as melee and level 6 gets to be fully ranged. Jayce can be ranged or melee from the beginning of the game. So what I'd want to see from this Jayce is, honestly, I'd like to see aggression, obviously. Kayle, even though is stronger than she used to be, she is still vulnerable in the early game. So I'd want to see this guy really kind of push as much as he can to try and harass and deny farm from the Kayle. The one thing that the Kayle has not done is Kayle has not gone PTA. So normally, and what I see a lot of the time now, Kayle's go press the attack because that actually gives her a lot of early game strength. So if a Jayce jumped in on hammer form and fought the Kayle might actually have been able to fight back with PTA. She hasn't. She's gone the sustain rune instead. So let's see how this goes. So obviously her ranged form from the Jayce isn't being too aggressive. Like maybe could also, could walk and go attack her already just to have that dominance already showing. But may not want to get any type of aggro from minions. Kayle obviously going to be very passive in the early game. It's better just to stay in XP range than lose all your health to farm. But also reminding there is a Vi in this game too. So, if I was... One thing I would say in this specific matchup is if I was a Vi, I would be tempted to help a Kayle in the early game because then you're helping something that scales amazingly well. And if you help them win lane, you probably have won the game. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. Is Vi going to become top lane a bit? Who knows? So EQ going to happen. It gets a little bit of damage, but again, the damage is quite low. I wouldn't really waste, personally, I wouldn't really waste much mana on doing that type of poke in the early game. Just auto. Like, auto attacking is probably going to be way more effective in the early game than going for spell damage, because your mana is so important to you that I would probably hold on to it as much as possible. And yeah, so someone in Twitch chat, and I was about to say, if you compare already between episode 1, which was a bronze Jayce, and this one, notice the movement. So that was a big thing. Meanwhile, a all-in is happening, and there's a ping. Vi coming in top lane, Jayce is awarded. He's going to flash. He probably will get away from this, but this is the unfortunate situation that the Jayce hasn't put the ward down to cover off the Vi gank, and obviously with that aggressive playstyle has naturally attracted that Vi gank. But yeah, if you just compare something straight away, is episode 1, the bronze Jayce was very stationary, and a lot of the time wasn't getting extra auto attacks in between movement. This Jayce, again, gold is a very average rank, a lot more mobile. He's moving in between every single attack. He's not just standing still, and I really like that. It's making him more unpredictable, and that's just good. People may always say, why is someone, the higher rating you go, you see people constantly moving. And that is mainly the unpredictable factor. You do not want to be predictable. If you are becoming predictable of, you know, they're always standing still getting autos, or whenever you're dodging a skill shot, you're always dodging in one direction, you're becoming very predictable, and that's easier to counter. The more you move in random areas, but you know, random with thoughts, it's a lot better for the long term, because you're harder to deal with for the enemy team. So Vi's top lane again, and as I mentioned, Jayce hasn't noticed, so that's one thing to say. So we're in gold. This isn't a Jayce specific thing. This is a gold level thing. Again, an average rank in League of Legends. It's very hard to sometimes notice or keep up with. I'm farming, I'm trading, managing my mana, and also managing your vision. Now, he put the ward down, but what you guys, if none of you just saw it, some of you probably did, the Vi's gone this way. So the Vi is probably going to loop this way, and I don't think this Jayce knows. So let's continue watching. There's the Vi behind him. He's going to try use his movement speed to get away. Kayle goes for the flash Q, and also a flash from Vi, so he does end up dead. Double flash from the enemy team, but does end up with a dead Jayce. And again, yes, they're focusing a Jayce, but arguably it's the correct thing to do somewhat, because again, Yasuo's annoying to gank. Bot lane, again, hard to gank. They've got a bit of a weird lane down here. It's Twitch and Seraphine. Meanwhile, Jayce teleporting back. Don't think he's going to get that kill. And he was just back away. So yeah, going for Kayle, helping your late game hyper carry do better in the early game. Not the worst decision in the world. And meanwhile, Vi actually died in bot lane. But that's already something to say. So we've moved on from bronze, so now we can be a bit more critical in an educational way. Is if you're going to put that vision down, which is good, Jayce put the ward down, you need to make sure you're constantly looking at that vision. It's something, again, that you've got to kind of manage yourself of whenever, you know, what time parameters are you looking? Are you looking there every couple seconds? Are you kind of, you know, looking at both directions at the same time? Everybody does it slightly different, but that Jayce just died because he didn't notice the Vi coming on the minimap. So again, the higher rating we go, you'll see probably that same situation happen. But when we're in Diamond, that Jayce will notice that minimap play, and he would have backed out a lot sooner. But yeah, so again, going for the tier build is the Jayce. So he is looking for scaling, which I think is the correct decision. You're against a Kayle. You are naturally going to be outscaled by this champion. So going what is the best scaling build for Jayce, which is Mirror Mana, is a good idea, and that is what he's going. You know, yes, it does kind of make you weaker in your lane phase, but he's already stronger than a Kayle in the lane phase, so it's okay. Hans made this. Thank you so much, dude, for the 30 months of Prime. Much appreciated for the long-term support, my dude. So Jay is going to continue to push. Well, he has, what he's done is he's got deeper vision, which is not a bad idea, but what happens if Vi does that? Obviously, Vi right now is bot lane, but this is the issue. If she does go this way, then Jayce is also in trouble. Kayle hits level 6, which now you would say levels the playing field of both champions can be ranged. And what I want to see from this Jayce, to be honest, is more poke like that, sure, but I would actually like to see him going all in more. Like what he's about to do doesn't actually get the range to get all the damage, but a bit more all-ins actually wouldn't be that bad. Make the Kayle feel uncomfortable is probably a good thing that I would try to consider. And again, blowing her ultimate then leads to her either having to go back or, meanwhile, wow, okay, there we go. Really nicely played. That was a surprise thing. Like I said, what I want to see from this Jayce was more aggression. He does it. He pulls the trigger and an all-in. Completely surprises the Kayle. I think she had enough mana to use ultimate, but just didn't use it in time. So that's good. That's the nice surprise attack. If, again, compared the bronze episode to this one, that is what the Jayce from last game, or the previous episode, didn't really do that, if you remember. He was kind of a bit hesitant on when to go for the kill, and he didn't pull the trigger a lot of the time, and he ended up getting kills more with his Q in ranged form than anywhere else, where a lot of aggressive Jayces will finish people off in hammer form. Also, Laughing Cat, thank you so much, dude, for the 23 months of Prime. Says, only 1 month shy of 2 years. Let's go. Thank you very much, dude. But yeah, that was good. That's the aggression level that I want to see from this Jayce. It's kind of like when you have that kind of burst as a champion, you catch people off. Like, you know, that's how Trindamirs and Kayles can die, even though they have an invulnerability ultimate. If you surprise them, it doesn't really matter. Veronai, I probably butchered that. Thank you so much for the gifty subby. Much appreciate, much appreciate. Vi back up in the top lane. So again, does the Jayce know? He should, so he's going to hopefully back out a little bit. He's got the Lilia in the area, so they could look for a 2v2. Vi in the tri-bush. Will Jayce go over? He is on his way. Vi really smartly uses her unstoppable ultimate when she's going to sleep, and therefore kind of making it redundant. Jayce should... He's not going to go for the all-in, and he now is a bit too indecisive and ends up dead. So that was not great for the Jayce. So what cost the Jayce there? Indecisiveness. He either could have run away more, quicker in the fight, or go for the all-in. He could have killed the Vi if he committed to it earlier, or he could have probably made it out alive if he committed to it. So indecisiveness ended up killing that Jayce. So that's something easily that the Jayce can look to improve, is just being more decisive. And yeah, if you guys watched the bronze episode, the Jayce down in bronze had kind of his strategy of, if you remember, he flashed past his target a lot of the time, or tried to run past his target and eat them back in ham form, like a Jayce insect if you want. You notice he's not really doing... This Jayce isn't really doing that, because again, you don't always have to do that. Again, sometimes in the bronze episode, that Jayce didn't have to do that, but he just had it in his mind. That is my strategy, that's what I'm doing. So the higher rating we go, in theory, we shouldn't really notice the same playstyle, because the higher rating you go, people kind of react to how the enemy are playing, rather than just having their one playstyle, the end. And so far, this Jayce, although it's an okay early game, it's nowhere near perfect. You know, farm-wise, obviously ahead of a Kayle in melee form, but not, you know, crazy far ahead. And you've got to worry about the scaling thing, that the Kayle does outscale. That kind of rhymes. So again, continuing on, what would I want to see from this Jayce? Again, continued 1v1 aggression right now. Vi's in mid lane right now, but I would like to see good vision cover. No control wards, I think, have been purchased by this Jayce so far. Like, literally none. So maybe a couple control wards to, like, get some deeper vision, or just, like, notice when the Vi's coming a bit more, because that seems to be the problem. But yeah, more all-in 1v1s when you know you're allowed to do it, basically. So going for this all-in, he's going to probably look for the E, doesn't actually get it. Is actually now being attacked. He's in trouble if he doesn't get away. So again, indecisiveness, probably could have swapped and run away a little bit earlier after he didn't get the initial E. Should have just backed out completely, because that's where you're giving Kayle the advantage. Don't do this. Bad decision making by the Jayce, and ends up dead. So again, he's having the aggression in places, but then what I would say is, and someone in Twitch actually noticed it, and I was waiting a bit more that I made this point just to see if I agree with it, limits. So the one thing with this Jayce that I don't think he's got down is his limits of how much damage am I dealing right now to go for an all-in, and how tanky am I to take damage. That is something that every player needs to learn of. If you're a main of a champion, you should know. And I don't think this Jayce has got this down right now of, like, how exactly much damage am I doing and how tanky am I to survive the thing. I just don't think he's there yet. And again, this Jayce has got nearly 300 games of the champion just this season. So after that amount of games, you may, could expect to know that information. But obviously not. Whenever people are playing the game, you could be a one-trick. Some of the biggest one-tricks of the game in League of Legends are the lowest ranks you can be, because people are just playing the game. They're not absorbing information, they're just playing the game. I like that all-in. So that is where, again, knowing your limits, that makes sense. Kayle just used ultimate to survive. She doesn't have flash up. You know this information, and she's very low health. You have the burst to kill her. So that is a example where that was a good thing. The previous example where Jayce was nearly dead, she had ultimate up still, she had flash up still. That's when just the limits of Jayce just weren't quite there. But the previous thing, Jayce should have stayed in range form and looked to continue to poke the Kayle. Even if you don't get the kill, even if you just get her out of lane, that's still an advantage. Again, one thing that is very apparent, and as we go throughout the ranks, whenever, whatever champion we're watching, is kills are very highly prioritized in low rank over farm. That people will stay in lane and just, they'll kind of put themselves to a kill when they shouldn't, and farm is the priority. Farm makes you more gold, but kills are more impressive, I guess. And just getting someone out of lane is a big deal. Don't overextend yourself to try and get that kill when, they're about to go back. Yeah, if you can keep them in lane when they're low health and, make the enemy uncomfortable, that could work. But don't get yourself killed when you have the advantage and they're about to go back. That's a big thing. Alright, so Kayle has got a completed item. She's got Wit's End, which is a bit of a power spike, obviously. The item has been nerfed, but it's still very strong. What I like is Jayce is putting, again, deep vision down. So he has it that he's putting it here. You see the enemy team on the minimap do know that. And has Jayce noticed? So right now, if you guys saw on the minimap, there was just the vision use of that scrying orb was just used by the enemy team. So Vi is here. Again, if we go here... Oh no, Seraphine is there. What? Okay, so Vi isn't there. Well, someone from the enemy team was there, and apparently it was a Seraphine. So what I would say from the Jayce, even though I guess that was wrong, was it Wit's End? No, Nash's Tooth, that's what I meant, thank you. The Jayce should back off right now, right? So when you've just seen on the mini-map that someone is in this area, that they've just used the scrying orb, the very likely thing, even though it might not happen, is that they could be going this way. So logically, the Jayce should back off. Is he going to back off? I don't know, but we'll see. He's going all in. There are minions that are backing him up. Vi, vision. He has the vision. So this is Jayce's own ward. You know, what is he going to do? He is continuing-ish. He's now backing off, thankfully. Again, maybe he backed off a little bit too late, by the way. And now he's committing. He's committing to the kill. Again, he might have overstayed. He's going to flash. He's got his phase of rush proc. He's now looping back for the kill. He does do a nice dodge, but he's going to end up dead, definitely. So this Jayce 100% has a problem with when to let go of a kill. So, you know, the previous episode was like decision-making and moving. Obviously, farm was kind of down there too. But this Jayce, so already we're now in gold level. 100% the thing that you can learn from this game, and what this guy specifically, is you need to let go of kills every now and then. This Jayce has died 4 times, and I'd say 3 of these times shouldn't have been kills. Meanwhile, the Yasuo obviously having quite a good game so far. He's going to get a triple kill, potentially 1v3 triple, 1v3 triple. Lux probably going to end up dead. That's unfortunate that the Kayle gets a free kill. And you can see this Jayce is spamming that Lux. So, oh my god, you gave the enemy a kill for free. Jayce has been doing that himself. Like, all the kills that the deaths that this Jayce has got are on him. That he could have got away in a lot of these situations, but he's so greedy for kills, it's getting him killed. So that's the big thing that we can learn from this episode so far. Hopefully you guys agree with that, but yeah. Again, not looking for farm. Again, looking for those kills. So that's the big thing. That's a very big thing that easily would help this Jayce if he just is a little bit less focused on kills and just plays a bit smarter. You denying that kill, let's say if Vi comes top lane, you're denying a kill from Vi or you're denying a kill by Kayle, that affects the rest of the map. Vi has come top lane and got several kills from the Jayce, or the Kayle has got several early kills that she shouldn't get. That hurts your whole game completely. Like, a Vi then is stronger than she was, and now Vi goes bot lane, and because she got an extra kill, she gets an extra item, and now she does get that kill on the bot lane because you died in top lane. It's all a snowballing effect that all affects it. You know, if it was only one time, maybe it wouldn't be that bad, but this Jayce has done it 3 times. He's over-greeded for a kill when he could have just let it go and survived. So that's a big thing. As for other things, well, obviously farm, we're in gold. Farm is still, you know, it's okay. It's definitely improved from last game. You notice on the enemy team, there's a feeding Akali that's having a very rough game. Kayle waiting in a bush, nice, and that's what I like to see. Nice little burst like that and walks away. Just do that 2 or 3 times, and then you have kill pressure on the Kayle. But obviously, there's a Seraphine, so now should completely back off. Don't have the greedy eyes, but he's done it again. He has vision of an enemy opponent. He goes all in at the wrong time because he's all about kills, and he gets himself killed himself. That's now for the 4th time this game. So that is easily the big thing that we can learn, even though this game is going relatively well for his team. You know, 20 and 11. That's the big thing. So yeah, honestly, like this Jayce, mechanically, pretty good. I don't think he's bad, but if he just fixes that thing, no win wall by the Yasuo, if he fixes that one big thing, I honestly think he would do actually quite well, because he would still be ahead on farm by a fair margin. Yasuo's probably going to end up dead, doesn't get the kill, unfortunately, but he would still be ahead on farm. He would be winning lane, but especially like something to a Kayle where yeah, you do want to beat her in the early game, and maybe that's the pressure that Jayce feels of, I have to get ahead of her in the early game, but at least that she wouldn't be in this more mid to late game state earlier into the game. This Akali should definitely not be looking for a fight. She's very weak as she is. This should be a free kill from the Jayce. Oh, he misses the Q. Now, again, you could probably, again, what I would say with this Jayce, he can probably stick around a little bit, but don't fully commit. So the one thing with this Jayce that we are normally seeing is he fully commits. He's an all-in Jayce player. Just range poke a bit more. You know, you're going a Mura mana, which is mana build. You can afford to just do more range harass, which is good. And that's what I'd like to see. So he can probably stay around, which he is, and just look for that. And there's a free kill. Again, don't go all in. Again, going a bit too all in. There could be someone in that bush. You never know, but he went all in anyway. So you're just going to be a bit careful. It's about, like, already this game, the Jayce has died because of these all-ins. So just kind of adjust the playstyle or to be a bit more ranged. Back off a little bit. Make sure you've got that vision, which he's now putting down. And kind of advance slowly. So again, nice. He's EQing ahead of him. So he's just kind of scouting out more than he has been recently. So I like that. That is good. So his damage, obviously very high. Has got completed Mura mana now. Obviously running Eclipse. Very strong item. Has to be careful. Again, tanking tier 2 tower is not something that I would do. And very soon... Again, you've got vision of the enemy team right now. If I lose vision of these people, this is when I would probably start to walk away. And there is the Akali. She's coming top, going all in. Jayce going all in. Manages to get the big boom, which is nice. So that was actually a nice decision. Akali obviously very weak. Probably not going to get her kill herself. And will give Jayce a double kill. So that was good by the Jayce. You know, arguably, probably could have walked away again. But this guy has the all-in playstyle. And he went for the all-in, which, let's be honest, completely caught the Kayle off guard. That is the second time this Kayle has been caught off guard by the Jayce. So obviously that is what this guy's playstyle is. So sometimes it's going to work quite nicely. Other times it's not. And you can see the damage. Look at the damage. It's really high. There is a Vi. Luck saves the Jayce just, so that's good. And he gets a nice EQ. So this is good. So what I would say, climbing a lot of the time, we found this spoon. Thank you so much for the 2 months of Prime. Climbing is a lot about normally consistency. Like, if you can be consistently at a level, you will probably climb. This Jayce has a very all-in playstyle. And again, as we mentioned at the beginning when we were showing his stats, again, he dies higher on average than other Jayce players. On average, he's got 5.8 deaths a game. A Jayce, I think, on average is about 4 point something. I'm not surprised that this player has a bit higher deaths. And again, when it goes well, it's going to go really well. And when it doesn't go very well, like it hasn't been always this game, it's not going to go great. So for this guy to continue playing Jayce, because mechanically, he's doing completely fine. And by the way, I should have done that a while ago. Mechanics-wise, he's good on Jayce. Like, he's for, you know, pretty solid mechanics. Nothing majorly to complain about. For him to kind of push it to the next level, you know, he's played 300 games in gold. How can I become a platinum player at least? I'd want to see a couple things. So not only focusing about those kills in the early. I think that's been a major bad thing that this Jayce has just got. Does end up dead, unfortunately. Bit of a questionable Baron, you could say. And that actually might give the enemy team Baron, so that's a little bit of a throw. And they do get the Baron. So that wasn't great by Yasuo and Jayce going for that. That was a very odd decision to go for it. But yeah, so the Jayce needs to get higher consistency, which means that even though it might mean he gets less kills on average, that he doesn't always go for that all-in, but he survives a bit more, that is most likely going to help him climb. Because, this game, the Akali is extremely weak, but if the Akali was doing averagely, the enemy team might be ahead. And a lot of that has stemmed from the Kayle being stronger in the early game than she should. And the Vi was actually getting strength as well from the Jayce. And again, it's important to know, in situations where the Jayce didn't actually have to give them that strength. The Jayce had, in 3 or 4 of those instances, the Jayce could have got away, but chose to take the fight. So in the future, for this Jayce to kind of push it to the next level, I think he needs to decide, right, I'm going to back away a little bit. I'm not going to go all in. And it sucks because, this player definitely has, I'm going for those kills. He has that mentality. Like right now, definitely should not be going for any types of kills. 100%. But again, the player is all about kills. So there's another instance of doing it again. So that's like a very, I wouldn't say it's an easy fix for this player moving forward. Because, some players just have it in them. I go for kills. And that's going to be hard to break. But that's, I think, honestly, a really a really big thing for especially solo queue players. I'm not even going to say it's a low rating thing. I think it's a solo queue thing of players love kills. That they want to be the guy who's legendary. They want to be the guy that's 10-0. But it doesn't work out all the time. And in a game, you need to address it if you're not having one of those pop-off games. You just have, sometimes as sucky as it is, you have to accept that it just isn't one of those pop-off games. I need to play more passive, or I need to, like with Jayce especially, I'm ranged and melee. Alright, for a while, I'm just going to kind of stick in ranged form a little bit more. And I think if Jayce did that, mechanically he seems solid, his farm isn't too bad. I think that would help this guy a lot. So that's the say with Jayce. And yeah, I've always used that catchphrase, sometimes you're not Batman, you're Robin, and that's completely okay. This Jayce needs to learn that. And a champion specifically like Jayce can do that easily. Like, I like Jayce for a number of reasons. Yes, you can have pop-off games in solo queue that you win your lane and snowball, but there are also games that you may not have the best one, and then you are pretty good utility-wise. You can give your team movement speed. So that's always a nice thing. But also, you're really good at bombarding. You don't actually always have to go all in. You know, you can be a more ranged kind of cannon, like, you know, like a Xerath type thing. Like, that's not the worst thing in the world. They do end up getting a double kill there, which is nice, and they're going to look in to push the game. So even though the enemy team just got Baron and Dragon, they ended up throwing a little bit. And again, stick in range form, be smart, don't get too close. He's going all in, which is fine for the Twitch. Stick away from the Kayle. Again, you're ranged and range. You do not need to be near this Kayle, and just kind of stick away from her. Could go for an EQ snipe. Is he going to go for it? He is going to go for it. Misses it on the range, but then has so many minions that he can return. So overall, not a bad game, definitely. And meanwhile, Matt Rat, thank you so much for the 7 months of Prime. But honestly, it wasn't like a complete stomp. Obviously, the Akali on the enemy team did do great. But specifically in top lane, a lot to learn. So far, this was episode 2 of the Champions Climb featuring Jayce. Last episode was bronze. This episode was gold. But specifically in top lane, a lot to learn. And a lot of mistakes that the Jayce made, and even the Kayle, if we're completely honest, that are fixable. The Kayle needed to be more kind of ready for the all-in, the surprise all-in. And it was good for Jayce to do that occasionally. But the Jayce, he needed, again, the main thing, we've mentioned it a couple of times, he needed to learn of when it wasn't the right thing to go all in. And yes, when you're seeing that Kayle at low health and the Vi's here, you might be like, oh, I can get that kill, maybe it'll be okay. But you need to learn to accept it's better that neither of us die in this situation than me maybe getting the Kayle, but me definitely dying to the Vi. That's the thing. And that happened like 4 times this game, at least. And that's just a very easy fix. It's a very easy fix. So overall, not bad. And we definitely saw a little bit of a step up from the last game, you know, in the general Jayce play. But definitely more things to go over. Definitely room for improvement. So next game, it'll either be a platinum game or potentially a low diamond game from another Jayce main. But hopefully you guys are enjoying this series. Yeah, it is worth mentioning as well that this Jayce did the highest damage in the game. Higher than the Yasuo that was really fed. So even the Yasuo KDA-wise, he had the pop-off game, the Jayce did more damage. So throughout the game, using that range, could have used it maybe even more. It does show that Jayce is very useful in that regard. But yeah, honestly, hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, throw a like on the video, throw a comment, throw a subscribe, and let me know what you thought of this game overall. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.